All right. Let everybody start jumping in. I keep on forgetting to like add my camera back in so people can actually see me.
Okay.
Because I actually like the second you get going, I get rid of my camera again, so I'm not sitting there taking away from you in the in the background.
I love
Man,
your t-shirt, by the way. That's cool.
oh yeah. Do you know David Stefan Patterson, DSP?
Oh yeah.
Like once a year, he like drops it like, as an item to sell. I keep on
Yeah, nice.
begging him. I'm like just sell this like throughout the year, make this like an evergreen thing, not this once a year.
That's so cool. Yeah, I like it. Have to get rid of them.
All right. Well, I am so excited. This is day 5 of Rock the Year, and I know Ben is excited to share with you guys. And you just sat down with, was it about 1,000 different firms
Good. Yeah, yeah. 500 recruitment businesses. Yeah.
and just got like the in-depth details exactly what they're doing for business development. Like I think it was like a multi-month study that you were doing. So I'm excited that you're going to share that, but also share like how you can still build your business without all this shiny objects of artificial intelligence. So, Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you go.
Sure. Thanks, Benjamin. And everybody. Benjamin is absolutely right. My contention that I'm going to share with you today is that AI is distracting you from the core activities that need to be driving your revenue growth and your ability to win new business today. In fact, I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today because I think there's some real opportunities for recruitment business leaders and consultants to bounce back strongly after what was a tough 2024 for a lot of people without the need for all of the fancy technology. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a negative Nelly when it comes to AI and technology. I think that there are some great advances that will help you grow your business going forwards. But today, as we sit here in the middle of March, eyeing the beginning of Q2, what can you do right now to help generate more new revenue, more new clients in your market without needing to rely on AI? AI could be an enormous distraction at a time when all of us need to be focused on one really key element of our business, which is becoming the best salespeople that we need to be. Why do we right now, at this point in 2025, need to be the best salespeople that we can possibly be? Well, you've experienced some of the following, haven't you? You recognize that it's harder than ever to break through the noise, to get your message to land in the primary inbox or start a real human conversation with people. You've recognized that it's become harder and harder to get seen as a expert and a trusted advisor to your clients. You recognize that more and more recruiters are being marginalized, commoditized, and I'm gonna try this word transactionalized. Maybe that's a stretch too far, but we are increasingly fighting a fight where employers and businesses believe that hiring is getting remarkably easier because the ad spend from the tech players is telling them that that's the case. And you, as an expert, become a very expensive option for recruitment unless you can truly prove that there is something about being human and being real that adds value to your clients. That means that we need to get better at selling our products and solutions. It means we need to think more creatively, more sophisticatedly about how we make all of that happen. And it means that we need to be much better at differentiating because no longer is it the case that the strength of your network, your relationships, your ability to find talent is not going to sell your business to your target clients. In fact, more and more, we're seeing recruiters struggling with an arm's length relationship with their clients and that perennial experience that recruiters have of roller coaster results. So, in this session, I'm going to walk you through why it is the human touch that is going to drive your success in generating new business and avoiding all of those challenges in the next 12 to 18 months, not the AI that may or may not help you increase your reach. I'm going to be looking at my notes today. And I want to make sure that I cover all of these key points. That's because I'm not a robot. And I'm also likely to be interrupted by all sorts of other things that might be going on in the world around me. And that human connection, that ability for me to look straight into this camera and talk to you today is what's going to make this interesting, intuitive, perhaps even funny as we go through this session. And that human element is something that all of us absolutely crave. Now, I mentioned this idea of being the best salesperson that you can possibly be. And recruiters have a very different set of experiences around how they feel about being a salesperson. So before we go any further, let me define for you the definition that I use with all of the businesses I support. What does being a salesperson mean? For me, sales is this: empowering and inspiring other people to take decisive action. That is actually the exact same definition that we might use for leadership. And there is a really close relationship, of course, isn't there, between leadership and sales. I can kind of put a detail to that. But what I want to share with you is where all of this experience for me comes from. Now, I work with recruitment businesses to help them develop the way that they approach business development. As Benjamin kindly mentioned, over the last 6 months, we've been building out an incredible set of data based on 500 businesses and the way that they do business development. We've got 35 unique insights taken from over 17,000 data points. And what we've done is we've combined that into a report, which is called the State of BD 2025. And if you head to my LinkedIn profile, my name is Ben Browning, as you probably know, and I run a business called Resonant. On my LinkedIn profile, you'll find in the featured section a link that'll take you through to the opportunity to download the report so you can review what 500 businesses like you are doing when it comes to business development. There's an opportunity to compare yourself against that data, an opportunity to celebrate what the industry is doing really well, an opportunity to gain new insights, and an opportunity to steal some advantage over your competitors too. So head to that link that Benjamin's just kindly shared in the notes there. Head over to my LinkedIn profile, drop down to the featured section, and you'll be able to get straight into the report and start taking a look at all of the great detail we've got there. So that's some of what we do and how we kind of know all of this stuff. But what can you do about it? Well, as I say, sales is the process of empowering and inspiring other people to take decisive action. Now, we can only do that with our humanity. In fact, the single best way to do that is with stories. People often come to me at the moment. Lots of my clients will come to me. Recruitment business leaders from across the world will turn to me and say, "Hey, Ben, can you help us build out our sales methodology? We want to invest in some technology, and we're not sure exactly, which pieces we need and how we might best go about improving the way we sell with technology." And my first question to them is this: what are you selling? Ridiculous, right? They're a recruitment business. What are they selling? They're selling access to talent? Maybe. They're selling the size of their database. They're selling their expertise and their knowledge. What do you sell? Do you sell any of those things? Or do you sell the fact that in 12 to 18 months from working with you, your clients reflect that their experience of hiring is significantly better than it's ever been before? Do you sell a feeling of eased frustration and tension, a feeling of completeness and clarity that your clients get when they go through a hiring process that's being led and steered by you? Because those feelings, those experiences, and those outcomes are, of course, the most valuable thing that recruiters can sell. Everything else is a commodity. We need sales stories. We need to be able to take our client through a visualization, a journey, a mental picture of being where they are today and recognizing, shining a light on where they are today to help them see the challenges that exist in their world, to take them from that place in their mind's eye to a place where these challenges, these experiences are no longer a problem. Let me give you a very concrete example. 6 months ago, I was sat with the global head of the life sciences business, a very large organization, on behalf of one of my clients. And I said to her, if in 12 months' time, the way you hire or your hiring strategy was as good as you could possibly imagine it being, what would be different and how would you know? She told me this: bang their bloody heads together. Lived experience. The first thing she said was, I'd bang their heads together. What do you mean, Liz? I asked. She said, we've got 3 stakeholders in this business, and every time we go to hire, the process is elongated. We lose out on our first choice candidates. They can never decide. They squabble. They've got no agreement about what exactly they need. It's a complete nightmare. If the way that we hired was as good as we could possibly imagine it being, I'd have banged their heads together and we'd have got this sorted out. I paraphrased this back to her and suggested that what she needed was some stakeholder alignment. That's about right, she said. Yeah, she preferred the phrase bang their heads together, I could tell. So the next part of the meeting was me walking through on behalf of my client with her. What are the ways in which we can help you achieve that stakeholder alignment? Now, this isn't a problem we can solve overnight. This isn't something that's going to be fixed straight away. If it was, Liz would have already sorted it out herself. This needed a process of change. And Liz bought into that story so fully that, having initially invited us to the conversation to talk to us about putting us on the PSL, do you know what she did? She took a whole tranche of that business and gave it to us exclusively. She effectively shut the PSL to any other suppliers and gave us the business exclusively. Why? Because we understood the world from her perspective and we understood her story. And whilst there will be tools that come to market that will help you do that better, there is nothing like a recruiter's intuition for understanding your client's stories. Now, that story has psychological impact. It has immediacy and intimacy for the person receiving it. Liz bought into us because she felt like we understood her world. One of my favorite quotes, and something I want you to think about significantly, or sincerely, I should say, is this: when you're able to describe another person's problem better than they can, they will believe that you have the solution. How often has that been true for you? That somebody you're talking to has described your problem in words that you've never really been able to find, and all of a sudden, you trust them to have the solution. And not even just that, but you trust them to help you find the solution. You trust them to help you uncover the solution to that problem. Hello, Matt. It's good to see that you're there. We've got this sense of intuitiveness and this sense of inspiration that come from stories. The human connection and the leadership element is the next piece in our jigsaw puzzle. We create human connection through the stories we tell. So when I ask you the question, what is it you sell? Can you tell me a story about the impact you have on your clients? Tell me a story about the impact that you have on your clients that starts with the goals and the dreams, the visions that they have, the frustrations, the problems that they face, and what they need to do differently to get from where they are to where they'd ideally like to be. If you can chart that path, if you can chart that story arc, you will unlock so many better conversations. And the reason we're talking about this today is because you and your intuition and your experience are far better able to do that than any technology tools in the market. The hardest thing to do in sales towards our goal of helping, of becoming the best salespeople that we can possibly be, and helping our clients by inspiring and empowering them to take decisive action, the hardest thing to do is to get them to admit they have a problem in the first place. Do you recognize that? You're talking to your client and they say, oh, no, the way we hire is just fine. The way we hire is absolutely fine. Don't need any help here. Actually, it's going great. You know, don't you, that for 60 or 70% of the people in your market, there are things that you could actively do that would help them hire better, that would shift the needle in terms of their hiring process. It is fascinating to me that so many people will deny they have a problem because they fear ultimately being sold to. So, how can you help your clients take decisive action, admit that they have a problem, and start making that change unless you are able to tell stories and build that human connection? So, that is the framing for this session and the campaign program that I'm going to share with you right now. AI could be a distraction for your business. In fact, for so many people right now, AI is a huge distraction. We need to be focused on being the best salespeople we can possibly be, because right now it's really flipping hard to break through the noise. It's harder than ever to get seen as a trusted advisor, and recruitment is becoming increasingly commoditized. So we need to be on our A game when it comes to creating human connections, telling compelling stories that inspire and empower other people to take decisive action. And what I'll do now is walk through the exact 4-step campaign that you can roll out over the next 90 days through Q2 of this year to get you to winning more and more business. Does that sound like a reasonable thing for us to do? Great, let's do it. The first step in our campaign, first step in any sales campaign is this: research. I cannot tell you how many times people reach out to me and say, hey, Ben, we need help with our BD. Can you do a session on cold calling? Hey, Ben, we need help with our BD. Can you give us some advice around how to write emails? No, I can't. Because until you've got the foundation of your research set, your message is going to be a real hodgepodge of different ideas, and you're never going to get the traction that you really want. Unfortunately, rather than stepping forward and leaning in, we need to, first of all, step back. What do I mean in this instance by research as a first step of your 90-day campaign? Well, have you got any clients in your industry who you get on well with? Have you got any candidates in your industry that are a senior level, maybe make buying decisions that you get on well with? I'm suspecting you probably do. We're talking about here is your community. The first step in your research plan should be to go out and engage with your community and really begin to lift the lid on what are their hopes. If they have a brilliant year, if 2025 is an amazingly successful year for them as a business, as a leader, as a team, what will they achieve? What will that success look like? If you like, you can go down the lines of what will they be bonused on? What will help them maximize their bonus? Or what will get them the recognition they feel they deserve? But we want to set some kind of vision of what they're trying to achieve. With a corporate level, that might be increasing share price or increasing their market share, bringing new products to market, winning new business, all sorts of different things. But you want to get a flavor from your clients about what they are working towards and what they hope to achieve. That's going to form a really nice part of your sales messaging when you come to it. The next part, really self-explanatory. You probably guessed with me already. You want to be thinking about what are their fears. If they get to the end of 2025 and they haven't achieved what they hope to, what's the most likely reason things won't have gone well? What's the most likely reason that they'll have failed? What's the thing most likely to stop them from achieving those goals? Once you can understand those two things, their objectives and their goals and the problems and the dangers and threats that they face, then we can start telling a much more effective sales story. Let me share a story with you. I was with a team of consultants, a business, towards the end of last year. And as it came to year end, they were making calls to all of their clients and all of their target clients and saying, look, who has been the recruiter who has helped you best this year? Who's been the best recruiter you've worked with this year? And can you tell me a little bit about why? And they were getting some decent answers to that question, but no one quite knew why they were asking or how it was helping. And we changed the question and unlocked 5 new business areas for them, including about £300,000 worth of new revenue. So what the question that they were asking was, who's been the best recruiter you've worked with this year? What we changed the question to generated £300,000 worth of business for them. This is what we changed the question to. Which supplier has best helped you achieve your goals this year? Which supplier or partner has best helped you achieve your goals this year? Now, why did that have such a compelling shift? Well, what it did was it helped them understand exactly what their clients were focused on, what they were trying to achieve, and how they were going about achieving it. What it also did was position them not as the best recruiter in their market, because frankly, we all love to be the best recruiter in our market, and we probably all claim to be the best recruiter in our market. But your clients don't buy that. What they buy is help towards their biggest goals. So if you position yourself as a small but significant cog, a small but significant and essential partner in helping your clients achieve their biggest goals, then you become unignorable, unavoidable. You become the inevitable choice. So when we think about that research, I really want you to go out, start talking to your community, start talking to your target clients, your existing clients. Who are the partners they've worked with who have helped them best achieve their goals? And what frustrations or challenges sit between them and success this year? If you're able to do that, you'll create a vision for them of what is possible. You'll start to align yourself to what they're trying to achieve. You'll also uncover conversations around some of their experiences. What's gone well for them? What's gone less well for them? How do they think that the way they hire today compares to the way they should hire or would like to hire? Or coming back to the question I asked Liz, in 12 to 18 months' time, if hiring is going as well as you could possibly imagine, what will have changed and how will you know? That conversation, Liz shared 2 other examples with me. She first of all talked about banging their blooming heads together. She then went on to say, we just need to be seen. Our employer brand, like we're a great place to work. We should be a destination employer. But no one really gets our brand. We're not communicating it as well as we should be. Another lived experience. And the third one was, when we come to offer, we're really anxious. We're really nervous that we might be overpaying. We just don't have enough clarity over salary bands and what people are actually getting paid in the industry. Liz had 3 lived experiences that we could solve with specific process steps. And by understanding that, we could then feed that into our organizational intelligence, a point I'll come back to later, and really start building out a sales story that won new business, not just from Liz, but across the industry. So your part 1 of your sales campaign is doing your research. Go and find out what your clients, candidates, and the people around you are motivated by and care about. So then is creating your target client list. Human, see, not a robot. Creating your target client list. Here's a fascinating question for you. How many clients would you love to win this year? It's probably quite a high number, right? You'd love to win them all. I'd love to win them all. What would happen to your level of service if you were working with every client that you could possibly work with? I'm going to guess that unfortunately, the more people you work with, the less strong your service that you can provide is. So you are the more the level of value you create for people, or the total level of value you create, is divided by the number of people you're creating that value for. And so the next question is, how few clients could you work with and achieve the goal that you set for yourself? Now, for most recruiters, somewhere between 15 and 20 clients who hire frequently, maybe multiple times per year, with significant fees, or have a reasonable set of contractors working for them. With 15 to 20 clients, you'd be absolutely where you want to be. You'd be absolutely flying. In fact, for most consultants, 12 of the right clients who you can serve really well, because you've the number of them will put you in an incredible position, both in revenue and in the value, the impact, and the legacy that you're creating in your industry. So if you only need to win 12 clients, let's say over the next 6 to 12 months, then what do you think needs to be the number of people you start reaching out to? How many people do you think you need on your list if your target for the next year is to win 12 new clients? My guess, in fact, the data we have, the suggestion that we work with, is that if you're able to add 2 people a day to your target client list, you'll be absolutely fine. So if over the next, let's say, 6 weeks or so, or even as few as 3 weeks, you're able to continually add a couple of people per day to your list, you'll be in great shape. Now, this is a place where you might think, oh, I'm going to get Clay, or I'm going to get some AI to do some research for me and generate a list. The challenge with that is that those tools aren't completely accurate. And you might say, well, fine, we'll use them to get a head start and then we'll refine that list. But my question is, your clients, your target clients, most likely are going to come from references. They're going to come from referrals. They're going to come from speaking to your community. None of those sources of leads or opportunities or new target clients are going to benefit from you using technology or AI in your outreach. They all come from conversations. Building your list should be really intuitive. You should be able to look at a couple of people and go, yeah, I think they're interesting, or I don't. After all, like, you spend, as a recruiter, you spend all your time talking to people, all your time using that intuition, using that kind of that human nature to determine exactly where opportunities sit and are going to come from. I am absolutely yet to be convinced that there is technology that could replace that intuition. And I just don't think that you really need to replace that intuition. I actually think that we lose something when we try to replace our human intelligence with artificial intelligence. So as you're building your list and you're thinking about adding 2 people per day to your target client list, you can be doing your own research on them. We've looked at lots of AI-based research and none of it is especially accurate. And it also misses the interesting points. It can give you a set of data, but it misses what's really interesting about the research. So as you're building out your target list, you need a smaller number of people than you think, and the research that you do is best done yourself. So most of my clients will take a campaign with 30 to 40 people on it through a 3-week cycle of activity. So every 3 weeks, they're taking a unique 30 to 40 people through that cycle. I say unique. Every quarter, they're repeating the cycle with the same people, or at least the people remaining that they haven't got through to, and adding new ones on. So if I were running a 3-week campaign now, in fact, I'm due to start mine on Monday, I'm going to be looking at 40 people, and those 40 people are going to get communication from me over the next 3 weeks. They then won't hear from me until Q3, and I'll pick up with those people who I haven't been able to have a conversation with. I'll be reaching out to them again at the beginning of Q3. So the third step in our campaign, once you've built your research, understood what your market wants, cares about, is invested in, motivated by, once you've understood that core sales story, we're then going to go and build a list, and that's using our intuition and thinking about a couple of people per day, and we're picking those up from conversations, and then we're lumping them into a list. And then we're going to spend the next 3 weeks doing a sales campaign, reaching out to those 30 to 40 people. And this is where we start building your messaging. This is another area where we're told that AI can potentially help us. You know what? Once again, there is a real gap between the promises around technology and what we're seeing coming through. Because the best ways to engage your clients, the single best ways to break through the noise right now, are calling your clients, sending them a video, or sending them a voice note. And do you know why those three things are the most powerful ways to reach out to your clients right now? Because they can't be faked. They can't be done by technology. And because they can't be done by technology, they don't scale. And because they don't scale, they are personal and intimate. Those three things again, I've just seen the question. Those three things again are the phone, sending a video, and sending a voice note. Now, that voice note could be a voicemail left on a answering machine, but it's predominantly going to be through a DM through LinkedIn in that outreach, or through you can potentially use WhatsApp or other platforms, depending on where you are in the world, and the efficacy and the effectiveness of doing that varies from market to market. But the point is, if it doesn't scale, that's great because it's real, authentic, and true to you, and that's what's going to cut through the noise. People aren't saying, oh my goodness, I am getting so many humans reaching out to me with well thought out, highly thought provoking, curiosity driven, engaging messaging that I simply don't have time to respond to them all, are they? No, they're not. They're saying, I'm getting so much spam filling up my inbox, I just delete it all. So the way that we stand out, the way that we break through the noise, the way that we set ourselves up to be seen as an expert and reduce those arm's length relationships that we have with some of our clients, the way that we get seen as more than a commodity is by being more than a commodity. It's by doing the hard stuff. So step 3 in your campaign is doing the activity and focusing on the things that don't scale, but focusing on doing small batch outreach. If you're doing something like 30 to 40 calls a day, it's going to feel like, for most recruiters, that's going to feel like a lot. Honestly, it's relatively small scale stuff. But if you're out there on the phone reaching out to 30 or 40 people, you'll be having somewhere in the region of 3 or 4 conversations every single day. And those 3 or 4 conversations over the week, or sorry, the 15 to 20 conversations over the week would deliver meetings for you. And bear in mind that our target, in order to get you to a really nice juicy number, in order to get you to the £90,000 that we target all of our clients on reaching every 90 days, the way that you need to get that is the only tools that you need in order to get that are a really clear message, picking up the phone and being visible and being heard over voice notes or video. The fourth part in our campaign is then, what do you do when you've got them in those conversations? What do you do when that conversation has started? This is an area, I don't know how you feel about this. This is an area recruiters always tell me, I'm great when I'm in front of a client. We're really good at that human interaction thing. Recruiters have great EQ and all the rest of it. What I want to know is, how many of you, when you sit down with your client, walk away with a commitment from that client to work with you on a multi-hire basis, i.e., 3 or 4 hires over the next 6 months or 12 months? How many of you leave that meeting with as much commitment as you could if we were nailing things as well as we like to believe? How I know, I'm not doubting your ability to build rapport and build engagement. Absolutely not. What I see time and time again, though, is that recruiters have no clear strategy or path to go from a cold introduction or a cold meeting through to, and well done, Sam, through to having landed that full ultimate level of commitment. This is where we see the real multiplication. This is where we see the real kind of multiplier, or the real kind of elevating and leveling up of your clients. So when we get through to people, we can sit down with them and actually take them through the reason why they should work with us exclusively, not just on one hire, but on multiple hires. I'm going to walk you through the human touch of being able to create a narrative that leaves you with that kind of business. Now, I want you to think about this hypothesis, this consideration. As a retainer, Does selling a retainer make recruitment any less transactional? Yes, I can almost hear you, right? Um, so we hope that when a client pays us a retainer or chooses to pay us upfront, they trust us a bit more. Does that make it any less transactional? Often, when a client chooses to pay us upfront, it's because they believe that they are buying a guaranteed outcome. They believe that we're putting skin in the game, that we're going to make this happen. What is the outcome that a client gets or thinks that they have guaranteed when they pay that retainer? It's a hire, isn't it? Client pays a retainer because they're paying for the hire. Within that deal, have you sold your expertise? Have you sold your advisory? Have you sold your consulting? Have you sold your data? Have you sold anything other than the piece of recruitment specifically? I am very much of the mindset that that retainers lead to good recruitment. I believe that retainers help create good recruitment, but I still believe that that engagement is transactional. And here's the alternative. The alternative from being transactional is being transformational. What does that mean, Ben? I'm glad you asked. Being transformational means that when you work with your client, the way that they recruit, their hiring strategy improves over time. Being transformational means they take your advice. And the way that we get there is by future framing, is by creating a picture of how recruitment will be when they've worked with us for a period of time or a period of hires. Imagine this. You sit down with your next client and you say, most businesses choose to work with us over a period of months or over a period of hires because they know that in order for their hiring strategy to get to be as good as it possibly could be, they're going to need to work with an expert in conversation over a period of time. And in order to track that change, they're going to need to see the data just off the back of one hire, which frankly, we could fluke. Anyone could fluke. They need to be able to look back at that data over a period of hires or a period of months and see how the changes in their hiring strategy have improved the outcomes that they experience as a business. Would you like to be in a situation where you've got 6 months worth of data, 6 months worth of hiring data that shows you definitively whether or not your hiring process has improved? Because what we believe is that creating a transformation is far more valuable and important than delivering a transaction. Can we hire your next role? Almost certainly. Do we have a proven track record of filling these types of vacancies? Yes. But you know why our clients keep coming back to us time and time again? Is because every time they hire through us, the way they hire gets better. That's consultative. That's consulting. That's transformational, not transactional. AI can't compete against that. In fact, if you want to take this to the full extreme, I want to consider this the DART framework: data, advisory, recruitment, transformation. Data, self explanatory. The numbers, the market mapping, all that kind of stuff that you'd love to sell, but sell it as a discrete product. Don't wrap it into a retainer. Show your client it has value by charging them for it independently or giving it to them for free or discounting or removing the fee. Then A is advisory, giving them the talk tracks, giving them the guidance on how to hire better, how to improve their process. R, recruitment, you know what that one is. T, transformation, looking at the data at the end of the process, taking 360-degree feedback from everybody involved, flipping it all around and creating a roadmap for how your clients can improve their process going forwards. So these are the kinds of conversations and the kinds of products that you can really start having conversations with your clients around to show that human element in terms of the change that you create. Let me just roll back over our 4-step 90-day campaign. At the start of your campaign, you're going to go out, talk to your community, gather their hopes, their fears, the things that motivate them, the things that excite them, and what stands in the way. Next, you're going to build your list of clients. It's far smaller a list than you think you need. And so by adding 2 target clients to your list every day and thinking about how you're going to do that research, picking them up on the fly, using your intuition, that's going to drive best results. You're able to disqualify your clients much more effectively than any technology. Our third step is to build your messaging. Building your messaging with a heartfelt approach, building your messaging around core sales stories that you've learned from all of your experiences and sharing those messages over the phone, over voice notes, over video, using the human touch. When you finally sit down and meet with your clients, then talking to them about the humanity and the interaction of your products to really kind of get them thinking about where do they want the way they hire to be in 12 months' time, and creating that vision and that imprint of what recruitment's going to look like for them at that point in time. That's our 4-step campaign. The final part of all of this, of course, is then to reflect back on how do you instinctively improve that, going and taking the feedback with your clients. Lots of you will have heard of or seen competitors, or maybe in your own business, using NPS scores, customer feedback surveys, those sorts of things. I think that's great. I think capturing data around those sorts of things are around customer feedback, capturing data around customer feedback is really, really key. However, I'm also really keen and really focused on helping you reach out to your clients and have conversations with them about their feedback. Because there's nothing worse than working with a recruiter who is a relationship specialist, a relationship focused recruiter, highly consultative, very high touch, all about the conversations. After the process, they get an email. How do we do 1 to 10? To me, that just feels like the least human, the coldest way of running that interaction. Did you notice in our outreach, I didn't mention email, by the way? That's deliberate. People want to personalize cold email. Cold email is the least personal thing you can possibly do. If you're focused on personalization, get the cold email completely. Pick up the phone. But we were talking about taking feedback, weren't we? Taking feedback from your clients is key, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to necessarily just have an automated system. We want to have a conversation, talk them through it. Ask them, based on your experience. If there are 2 things that we could do differently, better, or stop doing completely, what would they be? Really kind of have those conversations with them to gather that feedback. And when they tell you good things, then say, great, how can we together make that happen even more? How can we together spread the experience of hiring that you've just had across your entire business? All of that feedback piece should be done with the human touch. And when you get that right, clients love it. They go and tell what they do is they don't write an automated message to their friends saying, "Oh, we just had a brilliant experience with this recruiter." Do they? No, they don't. Well, certainly not the most effective ones. The ones you really want are the ones turning around to their colleagues and go, "Wow, just worked with a great recruiter." Or even better, we've been working with a recruiter for the last 6 months. We've just had the data through on how things have improved for us. That transformation is the thing that we really want to create. And I've been really focused on this idea of transformation because my goal is to impact the industry. The reason I do talks like today isn't because I hope you're going to DM me and ask me for my services, although do feel free to. The reason I give talks like today is because I genuinely believe there's a gap in the industry around a conversation around things like how do you actually have human conversations with people? How do you sell in a really positive, proactive, and valuable way? And this idea of sales, people, oh, I'm not a salesperson. You don't have to be, but why not? Sales is leadership, and we as recruiters are undervalued too often. I believe in nothing more than the value of great recruitment in an industry and your ability as a recruiter to impact the industries that you serve and to leave a legacy. And therefore, I'm really proud to support my clients in getting out and reaching out to the businesses that they want to work with, that they want to have an impact on, that they want to leave a legacy with, to help them get their message in front of them in the right possible way, to do all those things that we said at the start, to break through the noise, to get seen as an expert, to overcome those challenges, to stop themselves being commoditized, to charge higher fees, to capture value, to create the change that they're able of creating. So that's why I'm involved in this kind of thing. And if you want to continue that conversation, then Benjamin very kindly at the start of, I know we've had lots of messages jumping in the chat, which is great. Benjamin very at the very top of all of this shared my LinkedIn profile, which is very kind of him. My name's Ben Browning, founder of a business called Resonant. There are two ways in which we could potentially help you. You're likely either an individual consultant who's got the ambition and frankly the desire and the drive to get on this session to learn how to level yourself up, which I absolutely love and commend, or you're an individual solo recruiter, solo business owner, really sort of struggling through all the challenges and the joys that comes along with that. And if that you're one of those two people, if you're one of those two things, then we can help you with the 90K in 90 days blueprint. It's an online program. It's not training. I'm not a great trainer. I talk too much for starters. But I have created a video step-by-step guide that will take you through how you can join the dots in everything I've said today. So you're probably coming away today with a couple of notes, a couple of ideas, a few questions. The 90K 90-day blueprint will fill the gaps and get you there. Get you to where you want to be in terms of helping you become the best salesperson you can possibly be. Now, the next thing that I'm going to share with you is only relevant if you are a leader of a bigger business. If you've got multiple hires in your team, typically somewhere 5 headcounts and above. And in that instance, I'd be able to come in and work with you directly in a one-to-one capacity to help you map all of this stuff out for you in a bespoke way, to really understand what it means for you as an organization and help build out that sales culture, the sales processes, and then the tactical execution. So if anything sounds like it might be relevant or worth exploring at least, let me know. And if you just want to be involved in this conversation around why recruiters right now need to be embracing the human element and looking for ways to become the best salesperson you can possibly be and how to go about that, then I'd be delighted to help. Final thing, if that conversation is interesting to you, check out the Recruiting Better podcast. Recruiting Better with me, Ben Browning, on YouTube and Spotify. You can check out all of our shows. I'm really happy to take any questions that anyone's got here, and would love to hear if there's any parts of the talk that have resonated with you, left you completely confused, or if you've got some general feedback or thoughts or questions. So please do drop those in the chat. Thanks, Benjamin. Benjamin shared the links to the podcast there as well. And I know that you'll all be big podcast listeners because of Benjamin's brilliant show too. So thanks, Jill. Appreciate it.
I think we got a question in the Q&A.
Cool. I'm just going to take a sip of my drink while we
Okay. Let me know when you're ready for it.
Perfect. Let's do it.
All right. What's your opening line when they pick up the phone and it's a cold call?
Really tactical. I spend most of my time talking about sales strategy. The questions that come are always really tactical. Opening line when I start a cold call. Hey, it's Ben. We've never spoken before, and I suspect I'm calling at the worst possible moment. Can I take 30 seconds to tell you exactly why I'm calling, or would you rather not know? That's my line, but what's probably more important is why I say that. Number one, I tell them that we've never spoken before, because people's gut reaction when you get interrupted is this a friend or an enemy? Is this fight or the whole kind of fight or flight syndrome happens. The next part of it, where I say, I suspect I've caught you at the worst possible moment, is recognizing that like in an ideal world, they're saying, no, it's not a bad time. It's actually fine. And that's great. But if it is the worst moment, then I've still got the opportunity of taking 30 seconds to explain what it's about. And finally, and I think someone mentioned this in the comments, I then say, can I take 30 seconds to tell you what it's about, or would you rather not know? And that gives them that ultimatum. And people, frankly, people don't love being rude, in the UK at least. I don't know. But outside New York, whatever, right? Um, people don't love being rude. So if you give them the ultimatum, do you can I take 30 seconds or would you rather not know? People mostly towards I'll give you 30 seconds. I should have probably
Awesome.
mentioned that one of the reasons I don't do so much training is because my answers to questions are typically that long.
Somebody
Any other questions?
somebody said that only a robot would sip a drink.
Oh, what's that? Sorry, Benjamin?
Somebody said only a robot would have a sip of a drink.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Cool. Do
And
we
then
have any more questions or anything else
it looks like
we
somebody
need
was
to...
like expanding on that question. Um,
Hmm.
for the note purpose, I suspect I'm calling it the worst possible moment. Can I speak with you for 30 seconds to explain why I'm calling? Not quite getting that, Ebony. I'm sorry. Ebony, there's another question that popped up in the Q&A. If you can like uh, ask that, or it looks like she was talking about like writing notes. So the question that popped up in the Q&A, can you share a clear and well-constructed message that we can use to communicate to a client's story as an example?
Yeah, yeah, I can. And look, we use client stories. We use stories right the way through the playbook, right the way through all of the things that we do. Um, an example would be, let's say one of the places where we use stories is in discovery meetings. So our discovery meetings will classically go through a framework that we call open, sign. So open stands for objective, problem, effect, and needle. So the objective we talked about, the goal and that they're trying to work towards, the problem, the thing that stands in their way. That might be, for example, that they just need more time at their desk. But every time they go to hire, they're tied up in interviews and typing up interview notes and dealing with HR and giving feedback and reviewing CVs and all that kind of stuff. So the problem is obviously about could well be about the amount of time. What effect does that have? Well, it means they've got less time to spend with their team and less time to spend supporting their staff. And the needle, the metric that they would track ideally is how many minutes and hours. And do you guys track this actually? This is a great question. Or a great idea. Do you track how many minutes and hours your clients individually spend within a hiring process each month, quarter, year, whatever? It's a lovely number to be able to report back on when you think about that transformation over time. Anyway, open sign. So we've got that story of their objective, their problem, their effect, their needle. Then on the other side, we've got sign, which is the solution, the instance, the group that need to buy into it, and the negotiation. So when I've gone through a discovery call, by the end of my discovery call, I know I know what my client is trying to achieve. I know what problems they face and what change they want to see. So I then am going to say to them, Benjamin would now be an appropriate time for me to share an example of where we've helped another business or similar business overcome this kind of challenge. And given that you've just spent 30 minutes telling me about your problems, you're likely to say, yes, I'd love to hear an example. So cool. So another client came to us and they wanted to see their time to hire go down by 30% because they felt like on average they were losing too much time to the hiring process. So what we did, or what we worked out together, we could take a number of specific steps that would reduce the amount of time that they took in the hiring process, and we break down what those steps were. And as a result, we reduced the time to hire by 30%. And now they're able to give their team more support, give their team more training. They feel more respected as a leader. They feel more confident and comfortable as a leader because of the changes we've made to their hiring strategy. Does that sound like the kind of impact you'd like to see in your business? And is there anything we need to change about that approach to make it work for you? And by the time you've gone through that story a couple of different times in a couple of different ways for a couple of different metrics, your clients are saying, great, we'll do whatever it takes to work with you.
Somebody asked, how do you pitch a company that's hiring from a cold call?
Ah, my hypothesis, my experience is that the hiring manager with a live vacancy is the worst possible person to sell to. Why? Because their desk is on fire, right? And as a recruiter, I don't want to be responsible for running around with buckets of sand putting fires out. I want to be the guy selling the sprinkler system. If they've got a live vacancy, they've likely already spoken to HR about it. They've likely already spoken to other recruitment businesses. They've already got a plan in place. They think they know exactly what they need skills wise. They think they know exactly what they need to do with their process. They think they know exactly how to attract talent for this role, meaning I've got no control left over anything. All I can do is take the brief and try and find the candidate. Frankly, I am too expensive and too valuable to waste my time trying to fill a vacancy where the client thinks they've already made all the decisions. However, if I did want to go after a client with a live vacancy, my conversation would go like this. Hey, Benjamin, I see you've got a live role. Look, don't worry, I'm not calling you to help you fill it. I suspect you've already got 40,000 unread CVs in your inbox and 17 agencies hounding you every quarter of an hour. Would I be right? And Benjamin chuckles and says, well, it's not that bad, but yeah, geez. I'm like, oh, so the reason I'm calling is when I talk to people like you, they typically, when they're hiring roles like this, they typically tell me that they run into problem A, problem B, or problem C. And I'm guessing it's too early for you to have run into any of those problems just yet. And the client will either say, yes, it's too early. We don't have any of those problems. I've got all these unread CVs. I've got all these recruiters trying to help me. You're fine. I don't need your help. And I'll say, cool, that sounds great. What do you want to do? Just in case, I'll put you on a call back to catch up in 2 weeks' time. I'm guessing with all the support you've got, by then you'll be well into interviews and things will be going fine. And if you're not, that will be because one of these challenges may have come up. Is it reasonable for me to give you a call back in 2 weeks' time and see how you're getting on? Alternative, they might say, yes, we have run into those problems. In which case you can say, all right, and what support are you getting specifically around those? Because you can guarantee, right? We've all been there as a recruiter, kind of work the vacancy, but we've not actually talked to the client about the challenges and the problems they face in filling that vacancy. So when you start talking about the challenges and the problems that the client has, if they admit they've got a problem, then we can really set ourselves out as experts by talking about solving those problems rather than flinging another CV on the bonfire. So yeah, it's about how you hold your poise. Also, there's this brilliant thing where you say, "Look, I'll give you a call back in 2 weeks' time and find out if you've got that, if any of those problems have arisen." If you call back in 2 weeks' time and say, "Hey Benjamin, I called you 2 weeks ago. I saw you were advertising a role. I knew you were really well sorted, but I did mention that these problems sometimes come up." You're probably going to tell me you've found somebody for your hire, found somebody to hire already. I said, oh no, you're right. Actually, we have run into some of those problems. And the moment I say you're right, anybody who's ever had this experience where your client says to you, you're right, is like, then we know that's a penny drop moment. We're winning, and it's going to be so much easier for us to pull that vacancy or pull the client back to us. We might still say, you don't need my help on this. I'm not going to work this vacancy because you've already had every recruiter in town working it. But give me a call next time, yeah, because these problems we can help you avoid them. So yeah, that's how we think about that.
Somebody asked, any tips on how to reach out to people you have not connected with in years? You know, like they like you, but you have not maintained the relationship.
Always assume, I think this is probably fairly well accepted truism, right? That people think about you way less than you think about them, particularly if they're a potential client. Um, so I always err on the side of caution and just approach them almost as if it's completely cold. And then when they say, "Oh, hey Ben, I remember you," it's like it's much better than doing it the other way and going, "Oh, hey Benjamin, remember me?" And they're like, "No." Right? We always want to underplay any sense of connection, because it's much better to get it wrong and then be like, "Yeah, how are you doing?" Rather than I've got no idea who you are when we've come off really familiar. So that's how I think about that.
It would
And I've
probably
got to
help.
tell you, actually, Yeah, sorry, I've got to tell you that everything I'm sharing here is absolutely included in the 90K to 90 days blueprint. So the whole program will take you. These questions are great because they're super tactical. But the thing about the blueprint is it also gets you thinking strategically. It also gets you, the first thing we do is really get you thinking about your relationship with the idea of being a salesperson and really thinking about, yeah, look, whether you're an individual consultant or whether you're a business owner, how do I actually engage with this idea that, my job is to generate revenue. My job is to go out and find people I can have a valuable impact on. And how do I square the circle of being a consultant, but also being a salesperson? So yeah, this is all in there too.
And then somebody just asked, where can you find the 90K and 90 days blueprint?
Yeah, the best thing to do is drop me a DM. I will send you over some details, but yeah, drop me a DM and I'll get the details over. There's also next to that link on my profile. So in my featured section, there are two links. One will send you through to the sign up page for the State of BD report, our fantastic piece of data with over 500 recruitment businesses, 35 unique insights and commentary from four experts. There we go. There's my link. Um, the other link will give you the opportunity to book a call with me. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Otherwise, you can DM me and I'll share the details with the blueprint with you.
I think we just answered the last one. I think I missed one real quick. Oh, here we go.
Sure.
While I look for the question in the chat, we had one that popped up in the Q&A. What triggers you to reach out to a new customer? Seeing them growing, hearing that they're working with other recruiters, and is cold calling always your first way to reach out?
Yeah, look, cold calling is almost always the first way to reach out. And the reason for that is, as you can probably tell, I'm a really big believer in human to human connection and in conversations. Now, clearly, I think there was a question about, is cold calling the best way to win new business? You need a multi-channel approach. You want to, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't avoid email because it's practically free, and there are some gains there. I mean, typically we're looking at something like a 2 to 4% positive reply rate, no matter what people tell you. It's not massive. And again, personalizing cold email is I'm not going to say it's a fool's errand because for a lot of people it will have some effect, but relevance is the key over personalization. We've got a lot of data that bears that out. That probably prompts the question, what do I mean by relevance rather than personalization? I probably won't get into that here today, but regardless, when we think about cold calling, we want to have that conversation with somebody. That my primary goal is to be able to talk to them because I want to engage them in my story. I want to be able them to feel what it would, I want them to give them a mental picture of what it would be like to be on the other side of this problem and have the solution already in their business. And I can't really do that unless we're in conversation. Again, everything that is written, everything that AI can do scales, which ultimately means that somebody's using it for spam. No one's using cold calls for spam, right? Like, well, oh, is that true? Even cold calls aren't potentially safe, totally safe from being spam, but they're way more. There's so much more intent there. They scale so much less well than anything else. That you have to be deliberate and intentional about those conversations. I think I lost the thread of the question there, but
I did
happy to
find
have a
the question from Heather. And do you think cold
sure.
calling is the most effective way to gain new business when you lack a brand presence?
When you lack the brand presence, back to this idea that nobody's thinking about us as much as we think they are. I mean, really, like when I think about brand presence, what is it that creates your credibility? What is it that people really resonate with? Ultimately, and I hate to be a broken record on this, but it is stories. It's being relevant for what people are thinking about. Now, very few brands that you'll see, particularly recruitment brands, speak to recruiters and the problems they solve. Very few recruitment brands are out there saying, look, we specialize in working with a particular type of leader and helping them solve one of the biggest challenges that they face as an individual, which is how to hire really blooming well. And you know what? If you told me that you're a recruiter who specialized in helping CFOs of manufacturing businesses become exceptional at hiring because that helps reduce the amount of time they spend on the process and means they can build world-class teams. I'd book a meeting with you, wouldn't I? You know, so it's funny when we think about this idea of brand, but everyone's playing, as well as I see it, everyone's playing the wrong game. No one's talking about the problems they solve. They're all talking about, what they've got and who they are and what they do and how they do it. But no one's saying, look, if you're a if you're a female leader in technology who really cares about having a hiring process that is as free as possible from bias, then work with us because that is exactly what we're set up to do. You're not going to have a million clients. The 12 female tech leaders in your industry will work with you if that's what they care about. So those are the sorts of, when I think about brand, those are the sorts of things that I think about. And picking up the phone and having that conversation. I mean, you could genuinely, if you've got the sales story right, you can share it on any possible channel. But yeah, if you pick up the phone, you'll get to talk to these people first, and you'll also put your own personal spin on it. And I'm going to say one final thing on this, Benjamin. I'm not certain whether this is true. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I suspect that every single person, the vast majority of people listening to this, are not at the very beginning of their career. They are experienced recruiters. They might be people in their second career, actually. They've got a background in different things. They either own their own business or they've kind of, I was going to say, been around the block a bit. They've got some maturity, they've got some experience, they've got some expertise. Those are exactly the type of people who should definitely be selling over the phone. Why? Because frankly, they are more like their clients, their target clients, than I was at the start of my career when I came into the recruitment industry at 21 years old, right? There was a big disparity between me and the financial directors that I was reaching out to at that point. These days, I can get on the call to anybody and feel pretty much parity. I've got the bald head and the wrinkles and the bags under my eyes and the war stories to be able to have these conversations much more adeptly than I did 20 years ago. And I think for anybody who's in that situation, perhaps less haggard than me, but certainly with some more experience and some expertise, yeah, why would you not be on the phone? This is all about inspiring and empowering other people to take decisive action. And the best way we do that is through human connection.
All right, looks like we got two more questions come in, and then we might have to wrap it up after that.
Sure.
But and when there is no active role, how do you shape your cold call conversations?
Right. So we start with a hypothesis that we call a problem menu. And I would call you up and I'd say, hey, Benjamin, it's Ben. I've never spoken before. Suspect I'm calling at the worst possible moment. Can I grab 30 seconds to tell you why I'm calling? And you'd say, yeah, sure, shoot your shot. And I'd say, cool. Well, look, Benjamin, when I speak to other heads of marketing in what should we do? When I speak to other heads of marketing in large consumer brands organizations, they tell me that their biggest goal at the moment is growing market share. And they're working really hard towards that, and that's going really well. But one of the challenges they face is really being able to support their team to better use, ironically, the technology that the new systems and platforms that the team are being asked to work with. Or if it's not that, they just really struggle with being able to bring in people that are able to do the jobs, but are really kind of sit within their salary brackets. And if it's neither of those two things, then they find that the talent market is moving so quickly, they often miss out on their first choice hire and feel in some ways that they have to a little bit compromise or maybe settle for the people they're bringing in. Now, you're probably going to tell me that none of that applies to you. And so what I've done here is I've created a hypothesis. I've told you about my experience and my credibility. I've told you about three problems that I solve and that people commonly come up against. But then I've closed that off with a question that says, you probably don't run into any of that, because I know that most people, given the choice, will not want to admit their vulnerabilities or admit their problems, but definitely not to a stranger, certainly not to a salesperson, and worst of all, to a blooming recruiter, right? Jokes. So yeah, it's a hypothesis that we start with. That's where we start with the outreach.
Somebody asked, how do you structure the contract when you're selling that 6 month transformative relationship? Retained?
And no. So really our preference here is consulting fees. So what we do is we'd say, look, when we work with a business, we typically work with them on a 6 month or multi-hire type contract. And what we do is we do some consultation work with you to make sure you're the right client. It's a bit of an onboarding process. We provide you with data and advisory around your processes to help get us started. And we charge a discrete fee for that. So rather than being a retainer where you pay your money and then you hope we fill the role, you pay us $5,000. We come in, we spend a day with you, we go through the data, we go through your process, we give you some advice, we make some recommendations, and then when a hire arises, you give it to us exclusively, we fill it, or we don't, but you come and work with us with your hires, and then post the hire, we then do some work to help transform that. Now you'd pay for the upfront consultation, the data and advisory, you pay your recruiting fee, and then depending on how many hires you commit to with us, we usually add the transformation piece in for free. Now, the beauty of this approach is that if you then say to your client, if you commit to working with me over the next 6 months, we will waive the consulting fee on your next 3 vacancies. But of course, there's still an exclusive agreement in there, still a membership or a exclusive agreement in there. So they feel like, well, I've got two choices now. I can either commit to working with you on one vacancy, but I'm going to be paying a consulting fee. And that's okay. In my client's mind, that's okay because paying a consulting fee gets me a set of services. It's not a down payment on a promise that I may fail to deliver. It's a specific set of services. So that's what I'm thinking about is like I want to sell expertise when you become an expert when you sell your expertise. The next bit is then of course the recruitment. But if they say to you, look, we're only prepared to work with you on one role, then you say, well, look, in that case, we're not going to waive that consulting fee. There's the consulting fee. It's £5,000 before we then go on to do the hire. You can make the recruitment part of all of that cheaper because you're getting paid discreetly for the consultation. It's probably a bit more of a unpacking to do there, but as I say, this is exactly why we created the 90K in 90 days program to take you through everything from thinking about the way you approach sales, your methodology, your systems, your processes, through those specific conversations into the products and into the negotiation at the end. It's genuinely, there's a lot. Like, I think anybody who's been through the program, as you can probably tell from the stuff I've shared today, there's a lot there. It's a lot of really new and interesting thinking that we see work time and time again. It's very comprehensive, and some of it is just a bit of a stretch for people as well, which I think a lot of our clients really like. It's one of the words that keeps coming up in the feedback we take is how refreshing the approach is. So look, if you're looking for something new or thinking about changing your approach, then yeah, DM me and we'll talk about it. I'll give you some examples as well before you need to make a decision.
One last question, and we'll end it on
Sure.
this. If you're started, if you're just getting started out and you're a one-man band agency, where would you start with your BD strategy?
Mm, really good question. I would get really hyper focused on the exact type of people you want to serve. So either you've come from a background of recruitment, typically, or you've come from a background of the industry that you might be looking to serve. I would get absolutely laser focused on who are the actual people who you think you can impact the most. And I've given you some examples with the female tech leader who's specifically focused on having processes that are more equitable, or the CFO who's really worried about how much time they waste on interviews and reviewing CVs. Like, get really laser focused on who that person is, and then everything else, downstream of that, just becomes so much easier. The biggest mistake that recruiters fall into is trying to sell like a generic product to everyone. It's just making things much harder than you need to.
Awesome. Well, Ben, I just want to say thank you for kicking off day 5 of Rock the Year. I mean, definitely it's one of those things like we're talking about tech and I talk about tech a lot. but sometimes we just need to slow down, put the human back in the recruiting, and it's a good way to stand out of the crowd, especially when everybody, and I'll say this, I love Clay, is using Clay automations.
Well, dude, I mean, like, yeah, it's funny. There's a very, very funny story. I should probably share this with you offline, but while people are, while people are still here, one of my closest friends in the industry is a guy called John Phillips who runs a business called Outstation. He's an automation specialist. He's been sending out a campaign for his business over the last couple of weeks using layers and layers and layers of automation and hyper relevance, talking about like your local coffee shop and the road that you're walking along and all these different things in his messaging. And it's been printing leads for him. So when I told him I was coming on talking about zero AI today, he was like, oh man. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go and have a beer with him later and talk it over.
Well, awesome. I'll let you get back to I know it's late over there, but everybody make sure you follow Ben. Make sure you connect with Ben on LinkedIn. And if you want either the BD report, hit him up for that. It's in the feature section or the 90K in 90 days blueprint. So
That's
we'll give you guys a quick break. And then we have Kim Henderson next to just keep on rocking for day 5. So thank you, Ben.
nice one. Cheers, guys. Take care. All the best. Thank you. Bye bye.